even a lot. Maybe only 2 or 5 of us have investments. Everybody just has a savings account. And it's all very transactional.
Transactional.
And so, yes, there's a big piece that requires financial literacy, financial education. It's working with, even I recently was talking to somebody that, I need a financial planner, and you think, right, that I should know. But I'm talking about, people that don't even have access to anything at all. But yes, that's definitely something that needs to be looked into, and it's financial literacy, to be honest. It's just finding those people that can help.
So I think even myself, because me, I don't know how to throw other people under the bus. I think I've just come to the realization that, come next year, so we built, now we have, so it's time to then invest, right? Then expand your investments as well. Because I realize that most of the time, that's why I say I don't consider myself as a good manager of resources. Most of the time, if there's something, I just pour everything I have into it. I'm not thinking, what if, like a safety net or something. I don't do all of that.
No, but if you put some money aside for the children's education.
Yeah.
You put,
but I'm talking about
that's financial planning.
I think she's talking about like
so if you come now, if you come and kidnap me now, there won't be lots of money.
I mean, I think for me, I remember there was a time I was thinking, I think I need a financial advisor. That's because, so I'm very big on investments, right? But I feel like I've gotten to a point where, okay, what's next, right? I need someone to at least tell me
how to
allocate so it's like I have investment in different places. I've invested in real estate, in different things, basically. But then it's like,
but that only becomes the point when you have a lot of money. If you don't have money, you're not really thinking of it.
No, it's not that.
You are, because no matter how small, like I agree with Jennifer, I invest a bit, and I've gotten bonds like a couple of times. Like my sister will tell me this, I will invest in it, and then it doesn't work out. And each time you just have to invest. Like, you would want to invest because you want to, one, have an investment, and then two, you want to be able to grow your money. So it's normal for you to want to take those risks, and you have to, because you can, even if it works out for someone else, you wouldn't know if it will work out for you.
I think you're on the right path. The fact that you're thinking about this and talking about it, a lot of people don't even know. The problem.
So if you had a minute, right, to just paint us a picture, if we are able to solve this problem of financial inclusion, especially for the rural women, what would that mean for the economy? How would that look like? What would it be?
Well, first of all, we would have a significantly reduced informal sector, which is very important for economic growth. We would have more resilient households if there are women that are empowered financially and economically included and looking after the home front. When there's another COVID, we're sure that those households are sort of protected somewhat from those shocks. And then there's just that general perception of belief, and as Kofi Annan says, when women thrive, all of society benefits from it, and that's the truth. We see it across from even our studies that women always just look after the entire home, and the rest of society benefits because they're the ones making sure that children go to school, the house is put in order, and all of that. So yes.
Okay. On that note, I think we've had a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much, Nasser.
One more thing.
Yes, please.
The data that I was talking about, we will be launching on the 13th of December. So if you're interested, you guys come. It's interesting, and I think that everybody's been waiting for this, because a lot of times people just think, you're talking fancy stuff. But then when you hear the numbers, and then you start to hear stories of real people that are affected, then you can start to see how you fit into this solution, how you can provide a solution. It affects everybody. It's a multifaceted.
So is it going to be virtual launch or is it physical?
And physical. Physical at Eco Hotels and Suites, Grand Ballroom. Yes, 9 a.m.
So we're invited, Abby. 15th of
13th.
Oh, 13th of December.
Yes, it's a multi-stakeholder convening.
But I think we'll try to, because it's also important for us to be part of it. And we're happy to have you back. I mean, when the data is launched, so we can also then discuss. Because again, for us, it's important that we keep these conversations burning on the table. But thank you so much, Nasa.
Thank you, ladies.
Ways we will be 4 years in February. On Friday, 1st of December.
Pioneer.
Okay, Pioneer member. I might not be here, but they will be here. Jenny, baby, and I have work. No, I do this.
Wow.
Before we go, I've announced it in case people don't see me for till 2024. I love you guys. Before we go, ensure you follow us across all social media handles at Wayshow Africa. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, and invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. If you missed our quote for today, here it is again. It says, give a woman $1 and she can put it to good use. Teach her about how money really works and she can change the world. Literally, that's what NASA just said. So, I'll see you guys. I will see you people maybe in 2024, but they will see you people tomorrow at 8 p.m. as they bring another great conversation to your school. Let me just tell them now, so in case they don't see me.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Hello there, my name is Hakeem Adebayo, and here is my good old days story. Once upon a time, this barrack boy had the rare privilege of attending military schools both at the primary and secondary school levels, where paramilitary activities were combined with quality education at next to no cost. I was that young boy who grew up in a nation bound by love, peace, and serendipity, a country where all that was of paramount interest to us as kids was to walk to school, attend assembly, sing in chorus to the national anthem, and pledging to our great country Nigeria to be faithful, loyal, and honest. Growing up in the midst of people of different tribes, religion, and educational background, we had a thing in common. We were all bonded by the calmness, yet disciplined military atmosphere. Those were the days when we make promises to our parents and we strive to fulfill those promises. In my case, I routinely made a promise and vowed to come first in my class at the end of each term, a promise I could fulfill only once. But the commitment to attain that vow was always an inspiration. Mere thought of calling my name and inviting me out for presentation of gifts before my classmates during prize giving day was a continuous driving force for me to always want to be at my best. Those were the good virtuous days when there were healthy rivalries, unjaundiced academic competition amongst students. How can I forget the numerous handwritten letters and postcards to friends and family? A visit to and fro the post office was always memorable, as you were excited with the suspense of getting a letter from the post office box and ahead of time. Hazard guesses on where, who the sender could have been. Oh, I remember with nostalgia our mail box, P.O. Box 219 Ipaja Post Office. That was the magic number. Can you recall yours? I wonder if that medium is still as potent as they were then, not with the advent of social media and smartphones. I equally recall those days when the sound of my dad's Peugeot 504 saloon car was a timely warning for comportment a time to be well behaved and show your homeworks one after the other. It was a time to watch the famous NTA Channel 7 Tejo Show News and summarize the content of the day's newspaper to the man of the house, my father. God help you if the content of those newspapers were not fully digested and accurately summarized. Those were the days when we were taught to be abreast of events in our dear country. To what extent can we say today our children are very current on happenings in our country? I ask. I recall those days, those good days when holidays were times to bond with cousins and uncles, when it was as much fun to go to a cousin in the village and it was for another cousin to pay us a visit and spend the holiday with us in the city. Life then was modest and humble. Such moments to behold were those when my grannies would call me only by my native pet name, and this was always followed by a rendition of the family's panegyrics, known as Oriki in Yoruba. It was always an emotional trigger. The call of Ajani was all I always desired to hear, and would be eager to run errands without getting tired. What a time. How I dream in wishes that few of these moments be brought back and a slice of it granted to the current generation to taste. How can we change the narratives by working towards providing a greater future for the upcoming generation? Instead of reveling on the glorious past, we can do it. Ajani desires a brighter future laced with the solid foundation of the glorious past. Today, I equally identify with Sir Shamore Badijo in his desire to bring back all that is good about our past, with a view to redirecting our paths towards a greater future, not only for us, but the upcoming generation. I remain sincerely yours, Ajani.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bukky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Nigeria is a beautiful country filled with cultural resources and a preserved tradition. It is famously known as the Giant of Africa, whose cultural heritage is woven from the natural beauty in her land, threads of history, and the hospitality of her people. From rainforests in the south to savanna woodlands in the center and a semi-desert region in the north, Nigeria is adorned with long stretches of exotic beaches, lush mountains, magnificent waterfalls, and a unique wildlife, boasting of enchanting tourist attractions ready to be enjoyed. Here are some tourist destinations you should add to your bucket list. Coconut Beach. Coconut Beach is located in the coastal town of Badagry, west of Lagos State, Nigeria. No place tells the story of tourism fused with history like Badagry, which is situated about 20 miles close to the border of the Benin Republic. Coconut Beach has breathtaking and beautiful ocean views, a perfect place for relaxation, with the beach being set away from the noise of suburbia. It is surrounded by thousands of coconut trees, where it got its name from, beautiful holiday resorts, vacation huts, fresh air, and an open sky, portraying an ideal rural destination for lovers of fun and holiday makers. The Obudu Mountain Resorts. Above the sea level, on the Oshia ridge of the famous Sankwala Mountain, sits majestically the Obudu Mountain Resort. It is located in the highlands and deep tropical forests of Cross River State, with a temperate climate and just 45 miles from the border of Cameroon. The ranch boasts of numerous pleasant mountain area and countryside views, with tourist attractions like the water park, cable car, ranch cattle and horses, waterfall, and the ancient Anapi village. The Obudu Mountain Resort is a mix of adventure, beautiful scenery, and idyllic tranquility. The Yankari Game Reserve. In Bauchi State is the Yankari Game Reserve and former National Park, one of West Africa's eco-destinations. It is home to several natural warm water springs and the biggest wildlife retreat. The reserve is filled with a number of activities that would help you connect with nature. Marvel at the largest herd of elephants in the country, embark on a guided safari tour, and explore the tropical forest. You'll also find beautifully constructed huts alongside some uncaged animals such as monkeys and baboons living in their natural habitat. The Yankari Game Reserve is an area of great natural beauty that provides recreational pleasure. The Ogbunike Caves. Located in a valley blanketed by tropical rainforest in Anambra State, are a collection of caves knitted with historical and spiritual significance. The Ogbunike Caves are associated with living traditions said to be preserved by the people for many centuries. Descending into the valley where the caves are located is a walkway made up of about 317 steps, and visitors must remove their shoes before entering the caves based on tradition. The caves are beautifully surrounded by streams of water flowing out from one of the tunnels into River Nkisa. Seen as a trove for tourists, the Ogbunike Caves make an ideal destination. The Owu Waterfalls. Described as a wonder in the wilderness is the Owu Waterfalls, located in Kwara State. Cascading from a height of about 120 meters to a pool of ice-cold water, the Owu Waterfalls is one of the highest and most fascinating waterfalls to watch in West Africa. It is a beautiful scenery which can only be appreciated when explored. Experience a fine mix
worry for that. All rodents and reptiles who they disturb the die.
I'm a graduate of Political Science Social Studies from Adini Rogosaya College of Education. I graduated in the year 2020.
See, as of now, I'm looking for other jobs that I can merge together to meet up with responsibility.
One time I remember trekking from Oriental Hotel to Eco Hotel, dropping my CVs at every place. Dropping my CVs at different restaurants, different bars, different hotels, just hoping for something.
Pius is a graduate of computer science, but he drives an Uber for a living in the city of Lagos. Although underemployed, Pius is considered a tad lucky because 41% of the labor population with bachelor's degrees are without employment.
I got several jobs. When I go for the interview, I'll pass it. They'll say I'm too young. They want an older chef. And then so things like that were very, very frustrating. They almost pushed me off the edge. I was almost at the brink of going to call my friends and be like, okay, let me learn this Yahoo thing. But I just decided to keep pushing. Then I heard about this Uber thing. I got my first car. I was driving for somebody. I was supposed to be paying the person 25k a week. But sometimes when I walk, the car was having so much issues. If I make maybe 20, 30k in a day, the car, I'll end up spending like 27,000, 25,000 on fuel. So I couldn't keep up. I had to go for another car to another car before I finally found this one. And this one I'm driving to own the car and I'm almost done with it.
Presently, 1 out of every 3 Nigerians that are able to work are unemployed. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, 23.2 million Nigerians are out of work. That is almost the entire population of Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Gambia combined. While Nigeria's youth population has increased much in the last 1.5 decades, the available economic opportunities are shrinking. Nigeria is facing an increasing youth bulge with over 123 million young citizens, but there are just not enough jobs for these youths.
From 2015 to date, I find myself jobless now. Presently, I'm managing a job, electrical job, which I invested my money and went to go and acquire some skills, which is providing money for me now.
Instead of me searching for a job, my father just advised me, instead of you working somewhere, killing yourself, you know what the country is now. Just go into this. And I thought of it, I started making research, then I started doing my father's business. And that was how I started selling ads. I sell ads here and there.
Up to date, if I see a job, I will work, but if the pay is meaningful, because now they can't give me a job that will be earning like 45,000 or 50,000, because now through my electrical job I'm doing now, I earn more than the salary I think they will offer me now.
The dire unemployment situation, which some believe is more severe than reported, has been made worse by the coronavirus pandemic, which has led to shutdown of businesses. The adverse effects of this rising unemployment rate in Nigeria are becoming enormous and far-reaching.
Where there is unemployment, there is psychological desperation in itself, the sense of not having something to do. Then you also have the cogent economic consequence of not having money to spend because you're not working. This economic consequence then falls into a sociological consequence, which is a criminal side, because if people cannot fend for themselves, they either beg or steal or engage in any kind of disruptive criminal act. For these reasons, for these 3 reasons of psychology, sociology, and economic reasons, it is very important that we take the issue of unemployment very seriously.
When you are not able to meet your basic needs, when you that were able to put food on your table, you're now struggling, you that you were able to give somebody 5,000 naira, you're the one that is now begging 5,000 naira, it affects your sense of worth.
The unemployment problem is compounded for those living with disabilities who have to deal with extra hurdles, people like Christiana, who is a visually impaired business owner and tutor in Lagos.
We have this misconception that when there is no sight, there is nothing you can do. But in my own case, it's not like that. But one of the problems that we have is like people never had that trust with people living that disability that they can deliver it. And at the same time, people look down on us, low esteem, and there is discrimination and stigmatization that you cannot deliver.
The problem of exclusion is also gendered, as the numbers show. While the rate of unemployment is high, women are the worst hit. In stock terms, there are 30% more unemployed women than men. Women face barriers that men don't have to deal with.
So the woman who's at home and who's caring for the children, or who's the natural carer, would we say that that person is employed or not? I would dare say that they are employed. Now, We may have as high as 10%. Like I said, I think it's more. We may have a lot more women not employed in the formal structure as we know it, either within the corporate world or perhaps down the line of entrepreneurship. And there are very many different reasons and factors for that. But the starting point usually has to do with, the girl-child education, as we know, based on our culture and based on the long-standing statistics that we have that show that the girl child is not as educated. We don't take the same opportunities for the girl child as we've taken for the boy child due to cultural nuances. Traditionally, we believe that we should, educate the boys and not the girls. So let's go further up the pipeline. You do have girls who on graduation start and compete as well as the boys in terms of their careers, in terms of paid employment, and we're seeing a lot more of them now in terms of entrepreneurship. However, what tends to happen over time is, again, they tend to drop out when it's time perhaps to have a family. So it's really down sometimes to the choices that are made. And what we must do to try and balance things out is make sure that the choices that are open to women are actually more. So what are those things making them drop out? What are, for example, the reasons why midway through your career, you have to make a choice to say, I need to focus on my home? What then can employers do to ensure that these women are given the opportunities? How can we expand the choices such that I can manage my home, manage my career, still look after my children? And sometimes it's very simple things like, do we have the facility for childcare?
Unemployment in Nigeria is not just about availability of jobs, but also about the education system producing the right type of manpower in the right quality and quantity to industrialize the country. State actors and stakeholders say many Nigerian youths are not employable because their skills are largely divorced from labor requirements.
I think, in my view, reviving our technical and vocational education and training systems, it's not optional. As a matter of fact, it's where we must go, pari passu, our other academic institutions like universities and co, such that you find that we have a lot more focus around disciplines, around trades, around disciplines, around specializations. We're in I'm in a room now, I'm in your station, where journalism is a profession, right? But then there are also certain skill sets, whether it's graphics, whether it's creatives, that work very well with your industry. Now, not all of the skill sets that you need in this radio house require a university degree. So a lot of them can be honed, right from even as maybe senior secondary or even post-secondary through different diploma programs and things like that. Now, that's what we must do in terms of our skilling process, so that you have what you call a multiple pathway to your aspiration in life.
Vocational training is the key, is the answer. Germany, all industrialized nations, they all depend on these skills training. They have a robust, developed infrastructure for skills training. And so we cannot, no economy, no country can really move forward without having a developed structure, a developed ecosystem, a developed environment to train people, to send people for internship, or to train people, intern people, and eventually create employment for people. Because eventually it is those people who are trained, it is those people who have gone through internship, it is those people who have become employable who eventually becomes employers themselves.
But where are these vocational schools? There are just about 123 government-approved vocational schools across Nigeria. Aside this, there is also a certain stereotype that discourages students from enrolling in such schools.
The reason why some people don't like vocational work, depending on the area of specialization, you have to, when you want to work, you have to change your wares, and some don't like dirty work. Like me, I'm a plumber. People don't really know. Once I'm done in site and going home, people don't really believe that I'm a plumber, because maybe my stature or the way I look, so people don't really believe unless they see me while working on site.
So unfortunately, the number of people who are applying, to learn skill and all of that is still very low in number. And I actually understand why it is low in number. When you operate in an environment that glorifies certificate over skill, when you operate in an environment where the skilled workers are not properly paid, when you operate in that environment where there is no glory in having skilled work, of course, the youth will not be interested in that. But when you operate in a society that celebrates certification without adequate work, and that do not pay people living wages for their skills, then of course there's going to be very low interest in that particular field of work.
In the absence of white-collar jobs, many youth have turned to the informal sector, earning a living with small businesses and creating employment also. Presently, these small businesses account for 96% of businesses and 84% of employment in the country. Despite the significant contribution of SMEs to the Nigerian economy, the sector is still struggling with growth.
For me, there are three things. The first one is infrastructure. Power, for example, access to markets. When you are an SME or a member of the informal sector, if you are producing something in small quantities, after you've paid your rent, you've bought your raw materials, you have your equipment, you of course have to supplement power, because we don't have stable power in the country. So I think that's one of the major issues. Another issue is double tax or multiple taxation. A lot of businesses, there's no clarity on who they should be paying what taxes to. So for example, I once worked with one of the mobility startups in Lagos in the bike hailing space. And whilst we were, trying to speak with the LIRS, for example, about personal income tax or some basic tax from the drivers, we were obviously also having to deal with the unions, with their daily levies and all of that. So therefore, things like that will stifle businesses and informal sector players.
Although the informal sector may be having an influx of educated youth as players, there is also the snag of these graduates being majorly unequipped for entrepreneurship.
The world is moving from theoretical based learning to case-based learning, where you sit and you study case studies, you study practical lessons about scenarios, right, for business. I think it was Obasanjo, regime that tried to introduce entrepreneurship studies as one of the general GES courses or general studies courses. And, you look at the syllabus of that course, it's the same theoretical stuff, right? So there is nothing that prepares them properly for the challenges, for the realities, for the type of dynamics that they will be facing if they go out into the business world, right? If you look at the Igbo apprenticeship culture, it's an amazing learning point, because everything does not have to be. All your learning, your education doesn't have to come from the classroom, right? It does not always have to come from the classroom. So I think if government was serious enough, right, I would expect that the SMEDAN, for example, should have put in some type of structural support for the Igbo apprenticeship model, so that we can replicate those models across various societies.
The government acknowledges there is a bulging youth population with overwhelming unemployment figures. They, however, also insist they are addressing the problem.
The government has been
consciously and in a deliberate manner trying to address the issue of the youth bulge. It's not just about the numbers. It's also about what are the needs of the variegated strata of the youth population. First, education is key because education is power. Education is the greatest weapon against poverty. So the government has committed so much into education. There's emphasis on technical and vocational education, on the skills that you have. That's one. Two, as regards to the new technology, the digital economy, the ICT as it is, we've seen that our youth are IT savvy, we've seen that our youth have innovative minds. And my ministry, which is the Ministry of Youth, for instance, just during the COVID era, that's my first year in office, we were able to train close to 100,000 people on digital skills, which is still ongoing. We have quite a number of other skills. But the emphasis all around has been that the need to upskill our youth is a central agenda, but also to match the skills with the jobs available. There's been a mismatch in the past. But under this government, we've seen a deliberate effort to make sure that the upskilling of our youth, where that the skills they acquire matches the jobs available in the market, so that you just don't train them and throw them back into the job market. I know that you must have read it. In 5.5 years, this government has created 45 youth-focused programs. Some of them are empowerment programs. Some of them are entrepreneurship training. Some of them are technology training. And these programs are domiciled in various ministries.
Nigeria has not lacked special intervention programs. There are many of them. Yet, there are many unemployed youths as these intervention programs have failed in dropping the increasing unemployment rates. Critics argue that these programs are unimpressive.
For the intervention, or rather the interventions of the government, I'm going to score them high on intention and I'm going to score them low on performance or on result. High on intention because the act of rolling out a lot of intervention schemes like the N-Power, You Win, and the various ones, including trader money, all to activate employment, shows that there are people thinking, there are people of good intention out there. But the method to which they've approached it and the results they're getting makes me score them low on it, because in 2021, it is not the role of government to be creating jobs for people or to be doling out money for individuals to grow their businesses. What the government needs to do are three, really, is to overall create an environment that allows employment to be created. Who create employment is businesses. So the government needs to create an environment that allows business to thrive and create employment, and thus doing, fight unemployment.
Government will tell you, BOI, CBN, all of these guys, they'll tell you that we are providing interventions for MSMEs. So we have this 10 billion, we have this 100 billion for MSMEs. And then they will give you the guidelines. And then in the guidelines, you will see that they need you to be registered with CAC, they need you to have a bank account, they need you to have a business plan, they need you to have a financial statement. Look, that already by design excludes majority of those in the MSME space.
To bridge its unemployment gap, experts say Nigeria will have to create 5 million jobs annually for the next 10 years. Is the Nigerian government ready to tackle this problem?
You know, that question is a question for Minister of Labour. It's a question for me, Minister of Youth Development. It's a question for the Minister of Finance. It's a question for the NBS. You know, but I only wear one cap. And my desire is that the youth unemployment will drop. What am I doing in that direction as a minister in this government? Is to make sure that we win our youth off this idea of just putting together a resume and looking for a job, a white-collar job, an office job, a 5 to 9 job. There's no country in the world that has been able to solve its youth unemployment problem without turning its youth into entrepreneurs. And that is the whole rationale behind the establishment of the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund. The emphasis is on two major things. That is, must invest in our youth, provide them the needed credit and capital, access to that capital that can make them become wealth creators. Second, we need to focus ourselves educationally. We need to provide technical skills and vocational skills. China, 2 years ago, decided to close down over 200 universities or 250 universities and then turn them into vocational and technical schools, because the emphasis now in the developed world is the skills and what you can produce with your knowledge and your hand, not sitting down and carrying files in an office. So we need that paradigm shift. The AFDB leads clearly in the fact that we should move from youth empowerment to youth investment. That don't give our youth handouts, but give them tools, give them resources, give them credit and finance so that they can start. And look at this country. Our youth are they're hugely talented. The creative and entertainment industry dominates. Look at Nollywood, for instance. Look at where it is right now. And look at the musical world. Our Nigerian musicians, massive. But there's also a value chain. So there's an emphasis on looking at what's the value chain in agriculture. How do we put, you don't have to be a farmer. You can be an off-taker, just buy the produce and take it to the market. Look at sports, for instance. The value chain of sports is massive. Have we explored it? No. Under this government, we've been able to reclassify sports from recreation to business. And as we put together that policy, the entire value chain of sports as business will employ a lot of youth.
If Nigeria is to turn its large youth population into an advantage, then Nigeria has to rapidly reduce the disastrously high rates of youth unemployment.
You see, luckily and unluckily for us, we are an underdeveloped country. And most of what we have, what we need, we don't have enough of them. We don't have enough schools. We don't have enough hospitals. We don't have enough, almost anything. I can't think of anything that we have enough of. That problem of scarcity of assets should become the solution to our problem, in the sense that we should just sit down and try to create what we lack. To create what we lack, we need to think of what is needed. Why is it that we're not producing, and why is it that we're not consuming what we produce? Why is it that there is no urge to produce? Why are we having more pastors and politicians than manufacturers? If we want to boost Made in Nigeria, for example, I think we need to sit down and say, the first thing we need to do is perhaps create 5,000 production managers as a pilot scheme across the country, so that each one of them will go to different areas and specialize in one sort of production or the other. I repeat, I'm insisting on production, knowing fully well that where there is production, accountants will be needed, photographers will be needed, salespeople will be needed. The core of progress since the Industrial Revolution lies in production.
They really need to go fast because boys are not smiling, and then it can lead to early bloodshed. Early bloodshed in the sense that there will be serious competition. Boys know they smile again. Boys are willing to get their hands on anything just for this bar. And the government, if they are this slow, they will not be able to withstand what will come.
Minding your mannerisms in public signals civility. Your behavior determines how others perceive you, and if you can leave a good impression, why not?
When it comes to that, it's about really making sure that you don't do something that will make people upset. So let me give you a typical example, public toilet, right? You want to walk into that washroom nice and clean, and at the same time, you want to leave it clean for someone else to use it like that. But what you find is that some people use it haphazardly, they don't care about who's coming in next. And of course, people are disgruntled by the way the place is dirty, not kept well, and of course we have a problem there, health and hygiene, right? That's a public place. When you think about the airplane, for example, same thing as well. You are on the plane and you have children, and the children are making a whole lot of noise. You're disturbing the elderly people and other people who are sharing the same space with you. So when you're on the plane, you have to be mindful of other people that are going to be using it. So even when you're sitting down, it's a confined space, right? So you don't want to disturb other people. You want to make sure that you have a smooth ride without upsetting anyone while you're in that public space. What about when you're at the cinema as well? You know, a cinema is a place where, and a library, where you have to keep quiet. You don't want someone to keep telling you, shh, shh. What does that mean? You're not supposed to use your phone when you're in such places, like a library, for instance. Then you're in the supermarket as well. A whole lot of things. And many places where people are, I won't say maybe ignorant of other people, right? They think they're in their home. So you're in a reception in a restaurant, or you're in the reception of a hotel. You're not going to put your feet on the desk or on the table and you're watching the TV as if you're in your sitting room, right? So people wouldn't like that. I've seen cases where some people are they're in the not waiting room. There's a public place where you can sit down in a hotel, right? And some people have taken off their shoes, put their feet on the table, and their hand behind them, they're watching the news and like, hey, this is not your sitting room. You don't do things like that. Then when you talk about dining environments, you're in a restaurant. I have literally seen people, and I've done videos on this as well, where they've given you a napkin, it's for your hands. Wipe your hands down because you're about to eat. Then guess what happens? You see them using the same napkin to wipe their face, to wipe their hair. I've seen them do this. I'm like, oh, this is not the bathroom. So it's really about perception and how you want people to see you when you're in a public place.
When in the public, it is important to be courteous and respectful of others. You might not always know the rules, but if you make a genuine effort to be considerate of others with the intent not to disturb them, the conscious effort would show.
For me, I would love to see an environment where when we see something that is not right, we correct. I've done that severally, and I'm brave enough to do that. And most times when I finish speaking to the person says sorry, because maybe at the time they were doing it, they didn't realize how bad it was and the consequences to another person. But most times you find that they are truly sorry because it just didn't come down to that.
The rules of behavior when we're in public vary from culture to culture.
If you've ever been to Singapore and you're in a public train or any public environment, you're not allowed to chew chewing gum. And they made it a law. And so now people are very conscious. Don't chew chewing gum, you get fined, you can be imprisoned. So they've made it part and parcel of their life.
However, culture is an ever-evolving phenomenon that changes as the needs of the people changes. We all have rights, but it has limitations where the exercise of your rights begins to infringe on the rights of others. Behaviors such as playing music or videos loudly on your phone in public, receiving calls loudly in public places, or even blowing horns arbitrarily can be seen as offensive. Here are some common etiquette to take note of in public. Offer up your seat. If you're in perfectly good health, offer your seat to anyone who is either in poor health or pregnant. Make commuting easier for those who need it. Let the waiter come to you. Never yell or wave your hand at a waiter while dining. Make their job easier by being patient or politely get their attention when they pass by. Know your audience. Be aware of who's around before engaging in hot topics. Respecting people's sensibilities is the proper way to behave. Make sure to tip. Tipping is essential for certain employees to make a decent income, Make sure to leave a tip as a token of your gratitude whenever possible, even services you might not think of like a haircut or dog grooming. Say excuse me. It's the polite thing to do when you bump into someone. Even if you're not really the one to blame, why not just avoid conflict and brush off the situation? Use a coaster. Spilling isn't the only way to make a mess with your cold beverage. Say please and thank you, especially to those closest to you. Smile at the cashier, the bank teller, the security man, your co-worker, even if he or she doesn't smile back. Hold the door for the person behind you, and if someone holds the door for you, remember to say thank you. Step outside to answer your phone calls. Sometimes you have to take an important call. It is important to step outside to take your call because it's not fun to hear your conversation when we're trapped behind you in a line. Give people a pass. Cranky salesperson, nasty driver, you have no idea what's going on with that person right now. You don't have to reward ugly behavior with your own nastiness, which only perpetuates the cycle. Look at the person who's speaking to you. It is polite to listen to people who are talking to you and not just type away on your smartphone. Let someone go in front of you in line. Cough or sneeze into your elbow. Put your smartphone away during meals. Be on time. Ask before posting. Not everyone wants to be all over social media and you're not a reporter, so stop spreading the news. Keep the noise down at work. Silence the ringer on your phone. Speak quietly and turn the sound down on your dinging emails so it's not bugging everyone you work with. Wash your hands after using the bathroom. Park your shopping cart on the side of the aisle. Ask permission to use someone's first name. Clean up after yourself, at home, at work, at a friend's house. Ask before bringing a guest. Don't assume they're automatically invited no matter how well you know your host or hostess. Stay at home when you're sick. Reach out to people who are grieving. Don't pretend nothing happened. If you don't know what to do or say, you can simply say you're sorry. Let people get off the elevator first before you get on. The same rules apply to trains and buses. Silence your smartphone at the movies and stop crinkling that candy wrapper so loudly while you're at it. Help someone who's clearly struggling. The next time you see someone straining to reach something on the highest shelf at the grocery store, help him or her out. Skip controversial or nosy topics at parties. Politics, religion, or asking when they're getting pregnant or how much weight they lost. Those topics are sensitive and should be off the table. When you enter a room, greet everyone. Return calls. If someone takes the time to leave you a voicemail, take the time to call him or her back. Use an earphone or headphone in public while scrolling through social media.
Nobody go ask if you don't chop. Nobody go send you free money. If you not get now, you sabi. Adulthood na scam.
Adulthood na Scam is a popular song depicting the travails of being an adult and the responsibility that comes with it. There is no time the enormity of the responsibility dawns more than after graduation. After graduation is the time to make use of and put into practice the knowledge gained by students. However, the current higher education system is still struggling to bridge the gap between school and the workplace for students. The needs of the workplace differ, and something as simple as writing a CV is not taught in the classroom. How to apply what you have learned in school in the workplace is usually a knowledge gap that most graduates struggle with after graduation. Studying a particular course and deeply understanding the career paths available, the jobs available, the way companies and organizations operate, how to get hired, getting the relevant experience needed to get hired, knowing how to sell your skills are all parts of the puzzles that needs to be figured out by the young graduate. Abiola Ogunleye is a final year student of the University of Lagos, and he shares that he expected being in the university to be much more immersive.
I was expecting to be in a department where, aside theory that I would learn in class, of course I expected to learn theory, history and all of that, and how to go about things, but I expected university to be like how I saw it in the movies, where you'd have real life projects to undo, you do practicals, you do carry out. So for someone that was going to mass comm, I went to do mass comm with the mindset of possibly being on radio or TV and also journalism. So with the mindset of, okay, being part of the press club, producing newspapers, covering stories in school, producing shows and hosting them in school.
Even in terms of as simple as terms, media terms, like we didn't learn media terms, like even courts, we don't know what courts means, you understand? We don't know what, there are some terms, I'm just talking about terminologies here, like the most basic thing. So when I'm on set for a movie shoot, or because I did some radio listening, there were some terms that I did not understand, and when you check the terms, like there's some even workshop, they make use of workshops. So sometimes I was like, what's that? And then like people are like, you don't know something as simple as your workshop or the studio or headshots. Terminologies, just terminologies.
With a constantly evolving workforce and without a corresponding update in the school curriculum, the young people who win are those who go out of their way to learn skills required to be employable in the marketplace.
For example, in my school, we have we have the newspaper, we have the radio and TV, but for most of it, you have to be the one that will take the extra effort to be intentionally involved in them. You can just decide to do your coursework away from all of this and just factor it. Except in a few cases, like with the newspaper, where it's actually a course and you have to take it, but it's not compulsory if you don't want to take it. So, and mostly for folks in the print, in the public relations and other departments, there really isn't much of a way for them to practice in school. For now, it's just the newspaper, the print segment, and the broadcast segment that is in school.
TechCabal reported in 2020 that 58.9% of HND graduates are unemployed, 49.55% of OND graduates are unemployed, and 39.75% of BSc holders are unemployed. With the current Nigerian curriculum, there is an even lesser emphasis on soft skills that have gained prominence lately in the workplace. According to Rohan Rajiv, Director of Product Management at LinkedIn, in the Forbes article said, foundational soft skills have become even more important given the rise of remote and autonomous work, and are growing in importance across industries, levels, and work environments. Abiola explains that there is no room for soft skills in the classroom during his university education.
I don't think the curriculum or the course itself prepares you for all of that, for soft skills. It's just mostly, what happens is that they mostly focus on the course itself and not the soft skills. Yeah, they try to implement it in terms of maybe when you are doing group projects, you have to collaborate with others. That's teaching you teamwork. You have to do research on your own. You have to do a couple of other things on your own. To learn all of that, it's going to be more of personal development on your own. And I think that's what little associations here, like student associations, would now take up all of that and introduce other aspects that the school is not entirely focusing on. But when it comes to the core academic content is what schools are majorly focusing on delivering.
As many universities strive to update their curriculum and arm students with the skills they require to compete in today's labor force, the onus lies on students to take the extra effort to research, learn, and put themselves out there to get the required knowledge to survive. Some of the ways to prepare for life after school are extra research. Apart from the required coursework, developing an actual interest in what you are studying and researching the career opportunities are important. Having the right knowledge of what is required of you is the first step. This knowledge can help you make informed decisions about the right opportunities to look out for. Consider internship while in school. Even if your coursework doesn't require it, meet professionals in your industry to give you internship opportunities so you can have an experience that will help you both in your academics and when you graduate. Volunteer. Part of exposing yourself to experiences that can expand your network is to volunteer. There are many organizations, bodies that need people to volunteer. When you do, you can meet people, learn skills that will help you in the next step. Bridge your knowledge gap. There are many avenues, centers, online resources available to learn both hard and soft skills to make you more employable in the labor market. Apply for jobs while in school. Even if you don't get them, the experience would challenge you to write CVs and have an understanding of what is required in the job market when you are finally ready. Besides, who knows, you might land one and that would be the start of your career.
I looked away and tried to imagine Mama's reaction when I told her about Gozie. She had been waiting eagerly for me to bring someone home. I needed to marry early, she said. I lacked the traits and beauty after interrupting a heated conversation between me and my brothers. Today it's politics, tomorrow it's football. Instead of you to come and join me in the kitchen, you're shouting up and down the house like a street boy. My grandmother used to say, only a foolish rat dances with the lizard in the rain. You're a woman. Your brothers will have wives to cook for them. After all this book, better make sure you come home with a husband. You better not bring just a certificate. Adugo has that young man who's undo. Even Chinelo has somebody. Mama had been born in a time when education had been a luxury, if not a waste, for a girl child. But my grandmother had been a troublemaker. She'd insisted her husband send all their daughters to the local primary school to learn to read and write. Mama had spent the years afterwards learning to be a wife, and then her father shipped her off to be married long before she turned 18. I had other ambitions, desires she did not understand, to be something other than a wife. I hoped telling Mama about Gozie would restore her faith that I would be married someday. I was tired of being introduced to friends' sons, cousins, uncles, friends. Tired of Mama telling me every time the daughter of someone we knew got engaged or married, and as Shrebi, they were all planned to wear. Tired of congratulating others and watching them respond with oily smiles of those who had achieved all you aim to, saying, don't worry, God will do your own. My name is Iwanuse Odafen, and I'm the author of Tomorrow I Become a Woman. Growing up, my parents were very big on reading, and my dad would buy me a lot of books. You know, my mom made us read academically, like she would always make sure you had to. But then my dad would also like buy me Charles Dickens, you know, just like a lot of the classics. You know, my dad made me read them, and I just loved reading. And it got to a point that I started disturbing him to buy me books, and then he would we had these book shopping days where we'd go shopping for books together. And once I finished reading the books after a while, I'd go back to him again until he got tired and he was like, leave me alone. Because I've always loved reading, like I explained to you, like growing up that way. Well, writing actually was something I discovered pretty recently. It all started in 2015 when a friend was going through a very difficult situation. And I remember I was so frustrated about it, and I was talking to someone. The person said something I didn't agree with, basically repeating a lot of societal talk. And I was really upset by this. And I remember I told him, this friend of mine, I was like, I'm going to write about this. And he was like, can you go ahead now? Write it. And it's obviously, because it sounded absurd. I had written, then I used to write essays and I'd contributed to like some non-fiction things in school, but I'd never written like a novel, so it was a very bizarre thing to say I was going to do. But then in 2016, I had some free time because I was like in between jobs. I was applying for a job, and I was like, I want to write about this thing. I was really bothered by it, and I just started asking about writing. You don't get better. It's like you don't get better if you don't write. And I started, and my very first attempt was terrible, but I continued, and that just gave me so much peace, and that's how I really discovered my love for writing. Oh yes, definitely. When I attended the Purple Hibiscus Writing Workshop in 2019, at that point, because I come from a very finance background, so I studied accounting, like MBA, like everything was just very finance, consulting. But it was the first time I was actually surrounded by writers. Like everyone around me was actually a fellow writer that wanted to write. And just to be honest, I think we really underestimate how much just reading other people's works, so when you actually have to workshop each other's works and just reading and being inspired, like wow, more people are writing, and just listening to other people's experiences. And I remember also a lot of the tutors at the workshop were also very insightful. Just little things, talking about writing, you never know what will change. And I remember at that point I had a draft for my novel then, and I was stuck and I didn't know what to do. I remember Chimamanda, who was in charge of the workshop, said that particular session I was in, she said something around, sometimes you're writing and then you're so focused on your agenda and you forget to tell a story. It sounds like a very simple advice to a writer, but then it clicked that was what was wrong with my draft. It was a lot. It was a very long process in the sense that, because I had to even gain confidence as a writer, I had to be sure in my own voice. I had to find my own writing voice. But it was such a learning experience for me because I learned so much, not just about the subject I was writing on, but also about myself. Because several times I had to interrogate some things I'd accepted and some things I'd thought were normal, because I had to also think back over my own experiences to reflect them, because I really wanted the novel to be a true reflection of society. I wanted everyone to be able to see themselves. So I'd talk to friends, and then I had to even interrogate myself that, is this, why are you comfortable with this? Why have you accepted certain things as normal? So it was a very insightful experience. And it also taught me a lot about betting on yourself, because it's so easy to give up when you're writing as a writer, and because you get no's, there's so many like, why are you special, but it really taught me resilience. I stopped so many times, and then I kept going back. The first draft took me about 2.5 years. Yes, so I started writing the first draft in February 2016. I had a draft by September 2018. But then I had to keep editing, and I had something close to what is published now by 2020. Yeah, so it was a long process. Okay, so it was, again, publishing. I think a lot of people don't really understand how the publishing process, So generally, okay, it's different for a lot of people, and also in Nigeria is a bit different from the West. So like the very first edition of my book was published in the UK, and to do that I had to query a lot of agents. I got a lot of no's. I got over 50 no's, and from the draft I had, and that's kind of what spurred me to keep editing my draft. But I think after the workshop in 2019, I went back early 2020 and I rewrote my entire draft in 3 weeks. And I finished it, and I just felt like I can buy this book. As I could walk into a bookshop and I can pick. I know. And I was at that point, I knew I was supposed to stop. This can go out, and I started querying again. I think one thing people don't prepare writers for is actually rejection and the reality of publishing. And I think accepting that you're going to be rejected is the first step. And it sounds like a crazy thing to say, I'm like, why would you tell me that? That's a defeatist mindset. But then that's the thing, you're going to be rejected. But then, most of the time, all it takes is 1 year. And it's about not stopping your work. Just keep writing, because the thing about writing is, the only way you can get better is actually by writing. And it's crazy. It's like, oh, but my writing isn't good. But then you won't get better if you stop. It's about reading more. It's about also finding works that connect with your writing voice, works that speak to you, and also improve your writing. Just consistently improving your craft and never stopping. You get no's. You get no's that, and the thing about it is accepting that those no's will come, and you will be discouraged, because you will be discouraged. I was discouraged so many times. Like, there are times like I paused writing for months. Like, it will come, but then it's about not stopping there, refusing to allow that be the end. And just believing and having insane self-belief that at some point in the future, this will work out. And so that's my encouragement, to just keep writing and to just not stop.
Starpoint switch one, on, light on. Switching commander internal. Expectedly back to DW. Fuel tank pressure 60 on 55. Target. Your nav state with back and is perfect.
Right, my name is Terietta Precious. I am an event planner, a cake specialist. I'm also a natural juice specialist as well. I deal with fruits and I try to make people live healthy lives. And business is just pretty starting up, like coming back, resuscitating after a very long break of like 5 years. And that happened because I got trafficked, and the connection came through my friend. So how it all started, so after school, I started baking even before I left secondary school. And so when admission was taking so long, and I was really eager to go back to school and all, so I started doing events, started serving at parties, following vendors to events, and I started liking the job because I'm kind of like talented in the arts. So everything event looked like fun and work for me. So I decided to build a career in that, irrespective of going back to school. And then I started training up. I naturally just have recipes in my head for cakes, and maybe when I wake up, I'll go right out to what I saw either in my dream or what I thought about, and when I try it out, it always comes out nice. So my mom encouraged me to build up that career too, and that it was going to be a fruitful one. So at that point, there's this friend of mine that we kind of like, she's a bit older than I am, but we kind of like grew up together. She was always there for me because I had a child immediately after school. She was always there for me, always helping me out. So she said, since school wasn't working, then we should just venture into business. And looking at it that I was the first of 5 kids and I already had a child, school might be a little bit tight at that moment because my parents were really well to do, my mom actually, and because my parents are separated. So we used to make ice blocks and ice cubes together. We make ice blocks, we make ice. She was the one working there. So, but after her normal daily job, we now go in the evenings. So we had to take permission from her boss first. So we go in the evenings, we make ice blocks and ice cubes. We take to bars, restaurants, clubs, and most weekends when we get jobs as well, we get to supply ice blocks for events. So it started making me meet people. I started coming out more often, and people started liking my kind of person, like you're very intelligent. So sometimes my friend would just say, come, let's go to this place. She might not say anything, but we are certain that we're not living there without a new job to do almost every weekend. So it made me start becoming very outgoing, and I did meet lots of people. So I knew that I was only going to do that for a short while. And then on one of the occasions, we had a very long discussion, and she was like, she's just going to be here for the meantime. She was really building that up for me to like find a basis for me to start my event management career. And I took it that she was doing me a really good favor. So not too long from then, she introduced me to a friend who brought a job, and they wanted me to plan a particular event. It was going to be an opening, which I did, and it was fine. It came out well. It was quite big, so for me it was like a major big job for me, and I was happy at the pace at which I was, pulling up the shirts, and they were really looking perfect. So one of the guys who attended the event, a friend to the convener of the event, to the owner of the event, was like, whoa, I like your industrious, I like your person, you're smart, you're outspoken, and you know how to do almost everything and do it well. Like, how do you do it? And I was like, well, it's just me, that's just the way I am. And he got really interested, and we exchanged contacts, started talking, and sometimes he just calls me, hey babe, what's up? What's your plan for the weekend? Any event? And I'll be like, yes. And he's like, okay, drop location. He'll just come around, just come and check up, like to see what's up, and always commenting, always checking up on me. So for me, I felt it was like a good thing to just have someone who you've not known from Adam, become close, check up on you, and they're after your progress. And after like about 6 to 8 months of that constant checkup, he then just dropped the suggestion one day, like, he doesn't know how I'm going to see this, but there's a traveling opportunity, and he feels this should be the intern for me, since I already have plans to further education. Already I had started NCE. I was in my 200 level. I started NCE, but it was a bit tight. So most times when it's like that, he's always like one of the people I call, like, what's up? I'm having challenges with fees, or my friend and a couple of other friends will be like, every time you have to call me either for fees or for feeding or one thing or the other. I feel this is an opportunity for you. If you can take it up, you should go to Malaysia. You're going to be working in the hair factory, because at that point, apart from making cakes and planning events, I just got talented with playing around weave-ons, and then I just started making wigs even without even knowing that wig was going to become something that's going to be in vogue. So when they saw it, and they're like, this is really beautiful, like, how did you come about this? I don't know, I just see things and I do them. So he said that this is really good. So if you're going to a company where you're going to be working with attachment, weave-ons, and then you could get another job where you can work in a restaurant, maybe as a pastry chef or as an assistant baker, where you can shuffle in between both duties, make cool cash, and say in about 6 months you must have saved up enough. And then I was like, I don't have money. I know traveling out now, most especially going to Malaysia now, should cost so much. And it was like, no, that even if I don't have cash, I shouldn't worry about it. I'm like, how are you going to do that? And he was like, I should just leave all of that for him, that all he needs from me is my consent that I'll be willing to go. I said, but not without you telling me how you're going to go about it. And then he did explain that there are agents who are into traveling, and they help people travel either to go to school or to work. But then if you do not have money, there are people who are like investors, and what they do is to invest their money on you to travel. And then when you get to your post country, you start working, maybe like your first 3, 4, 5 months working, your salary will be used to pay them back whatever they have spent on you, but though it will be maybe either multiplied or there'll be an addition. And then he was like, I think if you are that hardworking, this shouldn't be a problem for you. So I sat down and thought about it, like, okay, so how much are we looking at here? And then he did a plus or minus $3,500 then, and then if I was going to pay back, I was going to be paying back like $7,000, and I was like, okay, how much are we talking about in Naira? He did the conversion, and then he did made me understand that I shouldn't even look at that money, that I'm going to be getting dinars, and that dinars is way higher than Naira. So, and he was like, don't worry, this is like the best opportunity for you. I know you're strong, I know you're hardworking, and you're very fun to be with. People love to be around you, so definitely you're going to make good friends who would even give you stipends, and you probably might not just have to pay back with all your hard-earned money. So the idea was to go work and come back to set up better or to finish up school so I can get a job. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And then he said he was going to, if I was ready, then he will now tell me the remaining processes. But then I have to look for like 4 extra people to make us 5. I was like, okay. And so these, my other friends, they also know this, my particular friend, Mary, that introduced me to the agent. So somehow, there's no how now, friends, girls would definitely meet, and I really don't remember how my other friends got to know, but they also got to know about the traveling because he also became friends with them. But because anybody can meet anybody anywhere, I didn't really try to know exactly how they also met this same person. But then the other thing I remember was that we were all talking about this whole traveling thing, and my other friends were like, they were already 2 sisters and 2 of their friends, so with 5 of us. And then we started talking about it, so they were like, we're going to get at least 50K first. The 50K was supposed to be for like our passport and some other little things that we would need right here before moving, but the traveling expenses was going to be covered by the investor, the invisible investor. So I for like a month we were on it, trying to get cash, running around, and several times they did say we're going to meet one person tomorrow. They could just call up today and say, okay, we're meeting the main travel agents tomorrow, we're meeting this tomorrow, and then we go. So they asked us to bring passports, pictures, so we should come for medical tests and all that. So on the day we went to Ikorodu to meet this other set of guys. That was the day we met a magician. So he is also part of the crew. Then the magician happens to be the transporter. So he did mention that when it comes to things like this, that he normally advises young ladies not to tell anyone. And that the reason why he would tell them not to tell anyone is because they will definitely discourage you the moment you tell them someone is paying for your traveling. That families don't believe that somebody anywhere can just decide to pay for you to travel, go work and come back. So at some point he actually did some magic. So he said he was going to show us what he does for a living in Malaysia, and that he had just come back, but he has decided to rest. He wants to stay back in Nigeria to take care of his family, and that this is what he does for a living in Malaysia and some other countries where he goes to. And then he brought out stuff, sand, salt, handkerchief. Then he did turn the sand into, he did turn salt into sand, and then turned the salt again into a bird. So seeing that, it just blew us out, kind of. And he also said that if we wanted to really go and we were certain that we were not going to tell anyone, we needed to like swear an oath and all of that. So they were going to make some concussion with new notes. So all of this is just to be secure that we're not going to be telling anybody. And at that point, I was really not very down with everything, but one thing just kept sticking in my mind, which is, as far as I'm going to make myself better, as far as I'm not going to be leaning or calling or, having to trouble family and all of that. And it was an opportunity for me to at least like do something tangible for myself. So I didn't really see anything, though I had doubts. I had very big doubts. So after that, they said they were going to let us know when we'll be leaving and how we will be leaving. We don't need to take anything, maybe just a bag or just maybe like a pair or 2 pairs of clothes, that when we get somewhere, we'll be going for shopping, we'll get clothes, and we'll get every necessary thing that we needed. So when he started mentioning that you don't have to tell anyone, so for me, I found it very difficult that, okay, I'll be leaving my child for my mom and I won't be able to describe to my mom where exactly I'm going to or what I'm going there to do. And why would someone say, it's supposed to be a good news. So why would someone else say, don't tell your family, because they probably will not like the sound of it or they will discourage you. For me, I feel that should be a good news and you should share. So, but he made us to believe that when you do that, they will discourage you and you might end up missing an opportunity of a lifetime. And another thing that got me thinking was the fact that he did mention that a lot of girls do go and they come back, they get to do big things for themselves. He also mentioned that apart from working in salons, restaurants, that some people go there to hustle. So when I heard the word hustle, I actually did ask, like, what's the meaning of hustle? And it was like, regular hustle though. I'm like, no, the way that word sounds to me, the way you're saying it, looks like there's a different meaning to hustle. And then he now expatiated and said, some girls do go there just to go and work in brothels and come back. I'm like, okay, so hearing that started making me think, like, okay, does it mean that there is something he's not saying? So then I now asked clearly, what exactly are you taking me to this country to go and do? He now asked, what did you tell your friend you want to do? I said, no, I didn't tell him. He suggested that since I am good in these areas, so I can work in a restaurant and then also work in a hair factory. And he was like, so that is what you are going to do? So I said, okay, and waited for the day they were going to call. So on the day he called, that's the initial guy that told me about the traveling opportunity. He called and said, okay, so get ready by next week. We are moving by next week Sunday. It was supposed to be a Sunday. I said, okay, no problem. And then on getting to Ikorodu, I found out that my other friends weren't there. So I asked, what's up, what happened with the other friends? And it was like, they couldn't come up with even money for their passports, which was 50K. I was like, oh, because I saw one of them that morning and I was like asking her, babe, how far? She was like, that she's not sure that she's going. That's the one that has a sister. And that again, that their mom told them that it's not a good journey, that they shouldn't go. And that if she would advise me that I shouldn't go, for their mom to say it's not a good journey, I was like, why at the dying minute? So to me at that point, I just thought that, okay, maybe this is why these guys were always saying don't tell anybody. So I just went because I'd already packed my bag. So I went to Ikorodu, and then on getting to Ikorodu, we passed the night in Ikorodu. They said we were waiting for 2 other people to join us, and the next day he took us to Agbara. On getting to Agbara, it's a lady's house, and I met the owner of the house and about 3 other ladies. So he said, so this is the person that is your real travel agent. She's the one that is paying for you. She's the one that is helping you to travel to the person who sent money to her. And I said, okay. So what I told my mom when I was going to leave, I told her that I was traveling and that it was going to take me maybe like 6 or 8 months to come back. And she was like, what kind of a travel is that, and why are you staying so long? So I told her that it's a friend that is helping me out, and I really do not have to do so much just to pay for my passport. So she was even the one that even gave me like 35k out of the 50k that I gave those guys. And when I explained to her that it's a friend, and she already knows the guy, so the guy as in became very close. During one of our school parties, my mom's school party, he actually came around. He comes, like everybody now knew him. So when I mentioned his name and my mom, okay, she didn't see a reason to question, because this is someone that everybody has come to know very well. So she was like, okay. So that day I told her was the day she gave me the money, and she was like, okay, if you say that is what you want to do. But then she now asked what I was going to do about my school. So I said already I had missed exam for that semester, and I already had missing exams from the previous semester. So when I come back, I'll sort it out. So she was like, okay, if that is what you want. But then she wasn't really like okay with it. She kept asking questions upon questions and questions upon questions. I'm like, at least you know the person that is actually working on this for me. So if there is anything, you can always ask him. So that was the last conversation I had with my mom. And at that time, there was a very big issue in the house. Oh, I was not in good terms with my stepdad and my mom. We had issues. So for me, it was just, I had it to the truth, and I wanted to just leave the house. So, and that was it. And I left. So my mom asked, so how are we going to be feeding this child? How are we going to be doing this? How are we going to be that? I told her not to worry, that at each point, I would always know what to do. So she didn't really bother me so much about the child, because she was still little. She was just 5. At least she would be able to still feed her and do some other things. So that was how I left my daughter with my mom and left. So on getting to that house, seeing 3 other ladies, and then the lady in question that owns the house, she was like, okay, so first she gave me rules that I was not comfortable with, and no talking to anybody. You're on your own here. It's just you and your destiny. Like, it's just you and your destiny here. No friendship. The only business you're here for is for you to be taken to the country where you're going to. She too, she just came back. She's going to be joining us like in a month's time, and all. So she said we're moving in 3 days. So in 3 days, nothing was happening, and then I was forced to ask questions. Like, I've been here for 3 days. Nobody's going anywhere. What's happening? So she was like, we're waiting for 2 more people. I'm like, that was the same thing these guys said the last time. They're waiting for 2 more people. You're also saying the same thing. So she almost snapped out, like, I'm questioning her too much, I'm pestering and this and that I should just take her word when she says we're waiting for 2 more people, or if I was the one that was going to pay the money. So I kept quiet. So that day was a day to my birthday that year, March 2nd. So I felt, okay, since I'm still around, let me just go home. So I went home, saw my mom, saw everyone, just got stuff. So my birthday, that was on my birthday, I went home, and felt like my mom was like, what happened? You've not gone? And like, we're waiting for 2 more people. And then my mom now aired out like, are you sure this thing is really genuine? And are you sure that you're not doing the wrong thing? She kept asking questions. So she asked me to call the guy that night so that she can confirm from him. So, but I called that night, his number wasn't going through. I told her that I didn't want to stay too long so that I can get back home, get back there on time. And that was how I left. So 2 days after, we were ready. and the lady asked her brother to take us to the park. So already, while the magician guy was talking to us a few days earlier, he had mentioned that we were going to go by road to an extent, and that the reason we're going by road to an extent is to avoid wahala from immigration and all of that. And to me, I was just wondering, but why are you trying to avoid these people if this is genuine? But I couldn't really ask too much questions. So he said we're going to go by road to a particular extent. So when the guy said we're going to the park, it took us to a park at Yanapaja, and then we entered Kano. So I now asked, why are we going to Kano? Then he said, that's the first place we are going to. That's where I will meet the people that will now take us to where we're going to. So at this point, we're 4 ladies and the guy. So he stayed with us at the park till the bus was full, and we moved. So right there at the park, there were 2 ladies in the same bus behind us, and I noticed they were murmuring to each other. I tried eavesdropping. At that point, my Yoruba wasn't really fluent, but I can understand little by little. So I tried eavesdropping to maybe just hear something, because I became very worried. Like, am I sure I really want to continue? I can't just go back home from here and just run away. So I started looking at a means at which I can maybe even just abscond from this guy's hand. But you know, he was seated right opposite us. So even if I come down from the bus now, he's definitely going to see me. So at a point, I acted like I wanted to go buy something, and then I noticed that he was walking behind me, and I was like, okay, so this guy is watching me, I can't run away. So at a point, I just waved the thought of running away and felt like, as far as I'm going for a good cause, let me just go and do what I got to do and come back home. So we left. Getting to Kano, I was on my phone at that point, and the lady did mention to me that when I get to Kano, she gave me a particular number. When I get to Kano, or if we are being stopped on the way, or maybe we're being arrested or hijacked on the way by any of the security officials, that we should call the particular number. So at the point where I think it was NDLEA that stopped us, and they were like, where are we going to? And to me, I just said, they said when they asked us, we should tell them we're going to Kano. And if they ask us who are we going to meet in Kano, we should mention a particular name, which was what we did. And they did let us go. So getting there, I called the number, the man did come and asked us to stay somewhere, and picked us, took us somewhere else. And I was like, okay, so what next? And then he said, he now mentioned the lady's name. She wasn't that sent us to him, right? I said yes. So he told us, yeah, enter the car. And he drove off. So we drove for like 3 hours. Getting to where we were, to me it was like, why are we here? This place is looking deserted and all. So I started looking out. I remember looking out and I saw Sabongeri while we were driving. I saw Sabongeri. And I remember that at some point I heard about Sabongeri before, and I remember it being like an outskirt of Kano or so, thereabouts. So I was like, okay, but why are we going this far? I couldn't really ask the man questions because he wasn't even going to answer. And from there, they hipped us. The place he took us to, we met some other women and men there. And they wouldn't even allow you to see anything. They were just pushing everybody in. People must not see us and all that. So they, like a hut, like it was a small hut, and there were people around. So they were trying to hide us. So at that point, I started becoming very scared, because why are you hiding us? Why are we having to rush into somewhere? You don't want people to know we are here. If they know we are here, they're going to come and take us away or something.
Ahead of Edo 2024 governorship election, a member representing Esako Federal Constituency at the House of Representatives, Honorable Dekeri Anamero, has cautioned against politics of turn by turn, and the Nigerian Army claims responsibility for airstrike which killed over 30 Kaduna villagers. I am Bola Oba, and this is Plus Politics. Member representing Esako Federal Constituency at the House of Representatives, Honorable Dekeri Sunday Anamero, has cautioned against turn-by-turn politics. He said reducing Edo State to, quote, just mere turn-by-turn politics would be dangerous for our collective polity, economy, as well as the survival of the state, unquote. Anamero, who is seeking the All Progressive Congress's APC's nomination in the gubernatorial poll, stated over the weekend when he flagged off his campaign as he charged the people to beware of ill-prepared aspirants. Joining us live is Oseni Momodu, Senior Special Assistant Media and Publicity to Honorable Anamero Dekeri, Member House of Representatives and frontline governorship aspirant in Edo State. Good to have you.
Thank you so much, Plus TV. Good evening to you.
Thank you. Good evening. What is your principal bringing to this game? We now have had a number of the big and the glorious haven't declared. So what is he bringing to the game?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your invitation to Plus TV Africa. Very quickly, you have said it all. The Edo 2024 governorship election is just around the corner. And by the special grace of God, my principal, Honorable Anamero Dekeri, member representing Esako Federal Constituency and frontline APC aspirant in the next gubernatorial election in our dear state, by the special grace of God, will be bringing a lot of goodies to the people of Edo State. Of course, Anamero has been a man who stands for peace, who stands for progress, who stands for employment, who stands for development, who stands for project, among others. Today, Honorable Anameru, by the special grace of God, has been a philanthropist. His philanthropic gesture over the last 12 years has brought a lot of goodies to the people of Edo State and beyond. As the gubernatorial aspirant contesting for the next election in Edo State, just on Saturday, when he officially declared interest to run for the governorship election, he reeled out a campaign program which he coined on Christian as Veteran of Hope. He christened that Veteran of Hope mainly because today in our state, Edo State, many people have lost focus, many people have lost hope. And the only hope that we are aspiring, that we are craving for today in Edo State is Honorable Anameru Dekeri. The successive administration that we have had in our dear state have really done well, but we believe very well that by the special grace of God, ours, if given the opportunity, nominated and elected as governor, he will do better. If you look at the manifesto very clearly, Anameru promised to give free education to the people of Edo State if nominated and elected under the Unprogressive Congress. He also promised on health that by the special grace of God, if nominated and elected, he will try as much as possible by way of policy to ensure that the people across different senatorial zones of Edo North, Edo Central, and in Edo South will be given fair treatment in terms of provision of facility in medicines. For example, if you listen to that program, that was on Saturday, he said, he narrated a story where at a particular instance, while he was traveling within the state, there was an accident which he had to stop by to assist the victims. So they had to travel for distance before they could get, health facility. And by the grace of God, even though as a philanthropist, he has been doing well for the people of Edo State, he has promised, and I know he will do it, that health facilities across the state will be properly taken care of. The age, especially those who are retirees in the state, will also be properly taken care of. And of course,
one is just wondering all these promises of free health, free education. One is wondering if they've been costed. Talk is cheap. When aspirants, I said talk is cheap. Have all these promises been costed? Because they won't come, they won't come free. Somebody would have to pay. How is he going to generate the money to deliver these promises?
Well, I need to quickly remind you that Anameru Dekeri grew from humble background. He is a businessman. He is an employer of labor. And today, somebody who grew his business from scratch, and today he is an international business empire just everywhere. So if Anameru could grow his business from the scratch as block molding merchant to becoming produce buyer and now an oil merchant in the international business, you can be rest assured that if given the opportunity, nominated and elected as governor of Edo State, he will do everything within his power to generate, resources to be able to embark on these promises that he has made. Of course, everywhere in the world, citizens pay taxes. When they pay taxes, they use the same taxes to impute on implementation on policies to be able to drive home all that is needed. Today in Edo State, we have arable land where agricultural produce are being produced. And Amero also promised that if given the opportunity, nominated and elected as governor of Edo State, he will capitalize on that to embark on massive industrialization in terms of agriculture and others to be able to generate revenue. Again, there are other things that by the grace of God that the government of Anambra Dekeri will be able to tap into to bring out these taxes to raise and implement campaign promises.
Would you perchance know that the tax net in Edo State is one of the smallest in the South. The internally generated revenue of Edo State relative to some other states are not quite much. So I'm hearing you speaking to your principal using tax revenue, which is part of the internal generated revenue to deliver industrialization, mechanization of agriculture, free education, free health service. I think you guys need to sit down all over again and have a very tidy manifesto. Don't you think so? Hello? Are you there? Okay, we'll go on a short break, and when we're back, we'll take it on from the next segment. I think, unfortunately, the telephone line or the bandwidth has not been quite favorable to the gentleman, and it's about time we moved on. Thank you. See you after the break. The Nigerian army has taken responsibility for Sunday's airstrike that left many villagers killed and several others injured at Tudumbiri village in Kaduna State. This development was confirmed by Samuel Aruwan, the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, at the end of an emergency security meeting on Monday. The Kaduna State government convened an emergency security meeting chaired by Deputy Governor Dr. Hadiza Balarabe to discuss the incident. Let's take a listen.
In the meeting, which was presided by Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor, Dr. Hadiza Sabwa Balarabe, which had in attendance heads of security agencies, religious and traditional leaders. The Nigerian Army explained the circumstances which led to the unfortunate and unintended attack. The GOC 1 Division, Nigerian Army, Major General V.U. Okoro, explained that the Nigerian Army was on a routine mission against terrorists but unfortunately, some members of the Tudumbiri community were affected. Search and rescue efforts are still ongoing, as dozens of have been evacuated to Barrow Diko Teaching Hospital by...
Joining us live is Roy Okidebe, security consultant. Roy, good to have you on Plus Politics.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Would you want to give us your understanding as a professional in the sector of what may have happened or what could have happened? Condolences, first of all, to members of family and co-villagers and indeed the government of Kaduna State. But can we get an explanation of what may have happened?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. And I cannot give an explanation for what has happened. I can give an analysis because the military has already come out to respond, and they have taken responsibility for the unfortunate calamity. But going from my experience as a military veteran, I have seen that the best and first thing to do is investigation. Now, I would like to draw our thoughts because I'm happy with the current Chief of Defense Staff with what he's doing so far for his strategic activities to upgrade intervention of insecurity parameters. I know that there are certain discussions that will be going on in different areas right now, and we need to look at a proper investigation. A proper investigation should and would carry us to different fora of understanding. Now, it is possible that we should be thinking of proper investigation into the cause of the calamity. If we have such happening, we must want to know, is it an accident, an innocent accident, or it was an intentional act? Then we also want to know, is it a careless act, or it was an unavoidable situation? You know, so when you put all of those discussions inside of the military intelligence system, you will be able to know what happened, why it happened, and why it should not happen again.
In the first place, getting the military to even own up is a pleasant surprise to somebody like me. Ordinarily, plausible deniability would have been what one thought would have been the tradition of the military. But coming out to accept culpability, that does not discountenance the importance of the investigative committee that you are requesting for or suggesting. But to you, how does it sound that the military came out to own up for this? At least the army came out to own up for this even before an investigative panel or committee has been set up.
Like I told you earlier, I served in Kaduna from 1 Mechanized Infantry Division for about 9 years, from 1990 to 1999. And I was in the Combat Engineers Unit, Bomb Disposal Squad. And I know that in the course of going for my airborne course 794, I was opportune to fly over the states and during our jumps, and the geographical spread of criminality and innocent citizens used to be very defined. Now you will know where criminals are, you will know where citizens are. And it was also possible then to be able to tell citizens to withdraw. so that the military can come in and eliminate the criminals. Now, a lot of things happened in Nigeria that led to a breakdown of trust and understanding between the people and security agencies. So the people became spies for the criminals. The military themselves could not gain trust. The police could not gain trust and use these people as their open source intelligence method and channels, And this brought to the loop where the military need to covertly operate. And if you want to do that, you are scared of creating opportunities to have casualties. So all of these backlog are some of the things that could not come to the public, because the military could not openly reveal, because you don't know where the criminals have their network to penetrate your activities, like those ambushes that we have been seeing where soldiers are killed. So I believe that the government coming out to take ownership, and the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Army Staff and all those military gamuts coming to take ownership, is to create another line of trust and relationship building with the people. And I'm sure that this will increase the opportunities to rout out all the criminal elements in the state and identify their actual spots of hideouts, so that the military operations will be decisive.
Now, we know that sometimes collateral damages or collateral calamities like these sometimes do happen. But whilst you were responding to the last question, you mentioned some very important intelligence assets. WOMINT, as in Human Intelligence Element Asset, and OSINT, open source intelligence that using telecoms and telecommunications equipment, basic phone messages. One wonders, unfortunately you have served in the military before. Do our military agencies also function as we have, we've read widely from their equivalents in other parts of the world?
If we look at the relationship between the military and opportunities for them to generate open source intelligence and human intelligence, you will understand that there must be a center of collaboration between the immigration services, the DSS, all other police special units, that deal with information on movement of persons and persons of high interest, So you will see that these collaborations are very, very sensitive, because if you remember the case of Wadume, where there was break of communication and the military and the police had an altercation that was bloody. If you remember, there are other cases too where military convoys are ambushed. So sensitivity of information exchange has grown so thick. And I want to tell you that use of technology should have been a strong advantage. But you remember recently where an airline that took off landed in a state where it was not its destination, and that happened in Nigeria. So definitely the use of intelligence via telecommunications, via information technology, via cyber operational activities is also possibly handicapped by our abilities in Nigeria for specific, and our training curriculum abilities for our personnel. So these are so many challenges that may call into our use of the web space, our lack of opportunity to have our own cyber operational basis, our data control incapacity for now. All of those things we bottle up into handicaps see, and vulnerabilities?
The military is always very, very concerned about protecting its personnel. And sometimes in the bid to do that, given what we have just portrayed now, in the backdrop of the sensitivity of information sharing and the fact that some elements of community sometimes serve as intelligence gathering agents for rebels and insurgents. Inevitably, in such an environment, mishaps like this. I'm choosing my words carefully because you can't explain away the fact that 30 human lives, innocent lives, have been lost. But inevitably, in the milieu of distrust, in the milieu of paranoia that one seems to have gleaned from your responses, it is almost inevitable that this kind of mishaps may happen again. How would you respond to that?
In operational environments, there are accidents. Now, the casualty rate for accidents is usually reduced if there was proper incident and accident investigation. So one challenge we have is our lack of closure, proper closure, and proper implementation of resolutions. Now we quickly start to raise committees. The committees, they go into investigation and they get a resolution. Now implementation becomes a problem. Now for peradventure, let's use this scenario for an example. Peradventure, it was a technology glitch. And the committee now find out that, oh, great, let me give you one good example. During the time of the Kaduna train abduction, the minister, Amechi, came on TV and he said that the train was asked to run without fully implementing security deterrence recommendation. So when I saw that, I was framed because we are quick to launch Nigeria Air, we are quick to launch a railway project, we are quick to launch. We are not careful to implement safety and security measures. That is why private security is not respected in Nigeria. If you look, right now we have the Association of Licensed Private Security in Nigeria. I'm a member. And I see the whole gamut of that association holding the egghead of private security in Nigeria. And so many of us consult internationally. I'm in Texas right now. I'm talking with so many people and we are consulting on security. But will my country take from it? So if you look at the expectations that we should have, the opportunities to deter future occurrences, then we must investigate this. We must investigate those that happened before. We must put in measures to reduce to the barest minimum possibilities of reoccurrence. Once we can have possibilities of reoccurrence reduced, then we can look at human failure. Then we can look at upgrading the curriculum and opportunities of exposure for our personnel. Then we can look at possibility of criminal intervention into the process and say, was it a terrorist attack? So once we can dispel all of this, we put deterrence measures, implementation, then we will say that occurrence tomorrow is to the barest minimum.
You don't seem to be, you're very discreet about the way you're making the point, but any intelligent listener can glean from your remarks that you are not too optimistic that the right things are being done with a view to unraveling what may have been the cause or causes of this unfortunate mishap. And apart from that, one is sitting there thinking with defense, taking the larger chunk of budgets in recent times. In fact, the newly proposed budget, defense comes top. So are we just sometimes throwing lousy money at some of these things without the requisite cultural change, attitudinal change, knowledge change, operational change that are imperative for us to see a positive movement of the dial?
Let me appreciate you. I can see very well that you have the spirit of discernment, especially professional security spirit of discernment. Now, there are things that we cannot say on air, especially with our current level of training and liaison capabilities. But one thing is sure, I appreciate your last question. You know, the defense budget that we talk about, most times, if it is deployed towards procurement and equipment, it's also usually a failure. You know, because I used to tell people, if you come to America here now, you will see that the motivation of the troops, the welfare of the troops, and the other paraphernalias like health, education for their kids, accommodation, and the care for veterans when you exit, you know, those are the people that are going to hold the gun, going to fly the jet fighter, going to operate the drones, thinking about military. So if you look at your defense budget and you generate your priorities towards procurement, then you have already started to fail. Now, let me come back to where I want to agree with you that I was trying to cut off some things. Let me open up some areas. Now, if you look at why will a military operation have civilian casualties, why? And if that is the case, do you deploy military? Because if you look at the NSA,
we have to go
Ministry
now.
of Interior.
We really have to go. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Quite an interesting
Thank you.
engagement. Looking forward to another opportunity with you. I think your intellectual persona, apart from your expertise, is very stimulating. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, throwback. Kitoye Ajasa. Sir Kitoye Ajasa was a notable first-generation UK-trained Nigerian lawyer of the late 19th century and colonial government-selected legislator who made significant contributions during the colonial period as the publisher of The Pioneer, one of the earliest newspapers in Nigeria. Known for his ultra-conservative and pro-colonial government views and advocacy for the adoption of European ideas and institutions for progress, Ajasa played a prominent role in the formation of the People's Union, the first organized political movement, not political party, organized political movement in Nigeria, and became the first Nigerian to be knighted. His career and influence left a lasting impact on Nigerian politics and society. Ajasa's conservative stance set him apart in a time of shifting ideologies and political turmoil. His close collaboration with the colonial authorities earned him both admiration and criticism, while some lauded his efforts to work within the system for positive change. Others criticized him for being too closely aligned with the colonial powers. Despite this, Ajasa remained steadfast in his belief that embracing European ideas and structures was crucial for Nigeria's advancement. One of Ajasa's notable contributions was his founding of the Nigerian Pioneer, a conservative newspaper that provided a platform for his perspectives and ideas. Through this publication, he furthered his advocacy for embracing Western concepts and traditions, sparking debates and discussions amongst his contemporaries. His unwavering commitment to these principles, despite facing opposition, solidified his reputation as a staunch advocate for change through collaboration with the colonial powers. Within the People's Union, Ajasa's influence was felt deeply. His leadership and conservative views shaped the direction of the Union and contributed to its role in the broader political landscape of the time. He was a vocal proponent of engagement with the colonial authorities and sought to leverage this relationship to drive change and progress in Nigeria. This approach placed him at the center of many pivotal discussions and decisions that would ultimately shape the country's future. Despite his advocacy for embracing colonial institutions, Ajasa was not without detractors. Many of his contemporaries criticized his conservative leanings, viewing his alignment with the colonial powers as contradictory to the growing nationalist movement. This criticism, however, did lead to sway Ajasa from his convictions, and he continued to champion his vision for Nigeria's future. Ajasa's legacy extends beyond his political activities. His work and influence in the legal sphere also left a lasting mark. As a lawyer, he navigated a complex landscape of colonial laws and regulations, using his expertise to advocate his beliefs and principles. This dual role as both a politician and a legal expert positioned him as a pivotal figure in shaping the legal and political arenas of his time. Ultimately, Sir Akintoye Ajasa's impact on Nigerian history cannot be overstated. His unwavering belief in the need to adopt European ideas and structures, his role in shaping the People's Union, and his pioneering efforts in journalism all contributed to a complex and multifaceted legacy. While Ajasa's conservative stance may have drawn criticism, his influence and contributions to Nigerian society during the colonial period make him a figure worth studying and understanding in historical context. With the richness of hindsight and the mess which the so-called nationalists turned First and Second Republic's politicals, indeed contemporary politicians, have made of governance, can we say that Sir Akintoye Ajasa's anti-nationalism stance has been proven right? I am Bola Oba.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. From the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment.
I left Nigeria back as far as 2012. There, I sat down with the food, and then I saw this newspaper advert saying doctors needed urgently in Saudi Arabia. So I abandoned my plate of amala. The rewards were just amazing, and I couldn't believe my eyes. You know, free accommodation, free flights. I was earning, you know, I was going to earn like times 20, you know, of what I earned at the time, in dollars as well. So I packed my bags, went home, packed my bags off to Lagos. I was at the Ikeja for the interview. Like immediately? Immediately, I left the Amala, went home, packed my bags, and off I went to Lagos. The next day, I went for the interview, did the interview. There were loads and loads of people there. Did the interview and got picked, and I was on my way to Saudi Arabia. So from Nigeria, I worked in Saudi Arabia for 2 years, and then I walked around the Middle East, Dubai, Oman, Bahrain, and from there, while I was working, I was writing my exams to work in the UK and the Republic of Ireland. So from there, I got a lecturing position in the UK, and then I was able to pass my exams within that time. So I got my licenses to be able to practice in Europe. So at the moment, I can practice in Europe, I can practice in New Zealand, I can practice in the Middle East, and of course in Nigeria as well. So my journey hasn't been straightforward. My journey has been from Nigeria, scattered around the Middle East and then Europe. The first culture shock I faced was I landed on a Thursday and obviously Friday, but it didn't click that Friday was a day to be respected in the Middle East, in the Muslim society. So I got up, was looking for food. I got out of my house, and after walking for like 5 minutes, it still didn't click that I was the only one in the environment, okay? So after walking about, say, 500 meters, I suddenly saw a car just drove in front of me and blocked me, and then I saw all these guys in beards just came, and of course I didn't. So the guy just came and said, "What are you doing out here? It's Friday. You're supposed to be praying." I'm like, I paused, and then he says, "Okay, are you a Muslim or a Christian?" "Yeah, are you a Muslim or a Christian?" I swear I didn't know whether to say Muslim or Christian because I didn't know what was going to happen. If you say Christian and they start flogging you, if you say Muslim, why are you not in the mosque? So I paused, and the guy said, "Bring out your Ikama." I showed him my Ikama, which is like a residential house between this period. So I said, "Okay." He said, "Everywhere is closed. You can't even get food." So I said, "I'm sorry. I will walk back right now." And then another one that was amazing, even though I was a doctor, I couldn't speak to female patients. So if a man comes in with a woman and the woman is the one with the problem, you cannot talk face to face to her. You cannot ask her. You have to ask the husband, say, "Okay, why have you brought this woman here?" And then the husband would. So my first experience, I spoke to this woman who had a breast lump, and I was talking. The husband was just looking at me. So when I finished, he was answering me. And when I finished, the guy just lost it. "How can you be talking to my wife?" I was like, I'm not toasting your wife, guy. You know, calm down. So the medical director had to give me an education, you know, yeah. So we were able to just placate the guy at that time. So that was one culture shock for me as well. I've traveled a lot of countries. I've seen 50 different countries now. I would say that in Europe, okay, so some very interesting ones. When I got to Europe, I was in my house, just sitting on my own, and friends said, "Come on, there's this birthday party happening, let's go and eat." Birthday party? Oh yeah, let's go now, where's the venue? So I went to the venue, we ate, we ordered, ate everything, finished. Birthday party. At the end of the day, the celebrant came and said, "This is the bill." And in my head, I'm thinking, bill for what? I should pay that you invite. I was in my house. I was in my house, you invited me. I came to eat, now I have to pay the bill. So that was one. The second one was, of course, driving. In Nigeria, you're on the left side, but in the UK, you're on the right side. So that was another culture shock for me in Europe. Okay. It's important to state that I always talk about the way to live legally within the legal bounds without violating any international laws, which is opposed to what people do, most people do. And if you notice very well, people live, you know, it's upward movement. You're living from poorer countries to rich countries. And interestingly, it's not as if the people who leave their countries illegally, generally speaking now, are not the poorest of the poorest when you put the standard of their country into context. They're not the poorest of the poorest. but because they're looking for better opportunities, they're looking for a place where they will get, you know, larger finances, a better standard of living, education, good access to health. That's why they're leaving. So they don't care how they do it. So long as the promises, you know, they've been given good promises, then they just take that pathway. I always use my social media handles on Instagram, on YouTube, Waka Waka Doctor, to tell people of the legal ways. And the reason why people most times don't want to follow this pathway is because I would say it's inherent laziness, because you have to do the work. You know, this illegal pathway, they're possibly going to say, pay this amount of money, we will just move you across the border. But they don't consider the consequences that come with it. This way that I preach involves a lot of, you know, work. You have to do a lot of work. So it means that you have to do research, you have to make applications, you have to pay little amount of fees, and then get the end result. So if you're not open to working, I give tips, I point you towards the right direction, but if you're not open to working, then it becomes a difficult task for you. So the easiest way is to keep educating ourselves. We keep educating these people and passing the information across. And I mean, this is one thing I'm doing now, and it's one thing I've been doing for the last 18 months, using Instagram, Twitter, YouTube to pass the information across. If someone comes to you to say, okay, I'm going to take you to Europe, you're a cake baker, I'm going to get you scholarship, there are documents you want to see. There are documents you want to see. You have your original passport. Have you submitted a statement of motivation or a letter of intent? Do you have a visa? Have you submitted documents to help you get an original visa? Do you have a work permit? Have you seen an original work permit? Have you called your employers over there to confirm that I have a real job and I'm coming to resume? So that again brings me to my first point, that people are mentally lazy. They don't want to do the work. Because when someone gives you documents and say, oh, this is your document, we're going abroad, you should say, give it to me. Let me confirm if it's real. Let me confirm if it's original. If it's a work permit, I'm going to call my employers to see if this job is real. If it's a school admission, I'm going to ring up the school to find out if it's real. I told you behind the cameras, I said, people have this mentality that, you know, things work outside just the way it works in this country. It's wrong. If you pick up the phone and call an admissions office, they will talk to you. If you pick up the phone and call an employer, they will talk to you. You're just looking for information. And if the information is real, they definitely get it. So, like I said, the first way to help with spread of information, help curb this is spread of information, educating people. And that's what I've been doing for the last 18 months using my social media platforms. Nothing good comes extremely easy, okay? You have to be patient. I tweet sometimes, I say that, I say, when you travel abroad, your life changes. You know, your skin becomes fresh, your smile is different, okay? There's peace of mind, you know, things come to you easily. You can actually actualize your dreams. You can live out your dreams right in front of you because there's a system that supports that. So my advice is, when you go abroad, be patient, keep working hard, don't stop, don't relax, you know, have a vision, write it down, allow your eyes see that vision, you know, consume it and continue to work towards it. It's simply as basic as that. That would be my advice. Save, and always call home, because one of the downsides to going abroad is that it can be boring sometimes. And that's why you should call friends. Don't cut people off. Call friends. You know, always call home if you miss home. Like, I'm home now because I missed Amala. I missed all those things, so I came home. So yeah, that's my advice. Keep working. Keep your head down. Of course, keep your connections back home so that you can always come back to them. This is a huge subject. It's a huge subject, and it's not something I can share in 1-2 minutes. So I'm going to say that the first thing you want to do is open an Instagram account if you don't have an Instagram account, and look for me, Waka Waka Doctor, because I give tips. Now, there are job boards across Europe, across Asia. You cannot streamline your choices and say that, oh, I just want to be in Canada, I just want to go to the US, I just want to go to the UK. There are 195 different countries in the world, so you have to say that I'm open to any one of them. And most of these countries have job boards, okay? Websites, different websites, where you can submit your applications, you go through rigorous interviews, you submit documents. If you then succeed, they are able to process your work permits and employ you. Now, some people will say, oh, I've tried the UK, it didn't work out, so they give up. But there are different countries in the world. There's Turkey, there's Lithuania, there's Kazakhstan. I know teachers that I've spoken to, in fact, 6, 7 of them in the last 4, 5 months who have left Nigeria to Kazakhstan, right? They teach English. They earn at least $1,800 in Kazakhstan, which is much more than what they will earn in Nigeria. So there are 195 countries. I post them, I mean, almost every day on my Instagram channel. So you can watch and see some of these job boards and apply for jobs. Some basic truths and facts is not every doctor can leave the country. So even if doctors are leaving, more doctors would graduate and you still have doctors around. But doctors are leaving in their large numbers every day. So the future of medicine in Nigeria is very bleak, because you have the extremely intelligent doctors leaving, going abroad, because the system abroad is extremely encouraging. The system abroad gives you opportunities to become greater than what you can ever think or imagine. People keep writing their exams, people keep going for interviews because the system allows it. So the advice straight up I'll give to the Nigerian government is, first and foremost, create a platform that encourages us as doctors. Facilities, give us things we can. It's not as if, you know, things we only see in the books, things we can see and work with. Pay us money. I worked in Osun State. My salary in 2011 was 90,000 naira. I was doing 2 jobs and I couldn't earn 120,000 naira, 2 jobs. When I went to Saudi Arabia, salary was $5,000. Look at the discrepancy, it's too huge. And they were owing us 6 months. You owe someone 6 months. How can, I was seeing 200 patients in a day. 200 patients. How, I mean, the first 10 patients I see would get the best out of me. The other ones, the truth, it's just the truth. The other ones would be people, that's it. It doesn't work that way. Create a good culture, a good environment for doctors to work. Pay them properly. You know, give them, you know, standard remuneration that they can compare with their friends and colleagues abroad and say, okay, yes, we you know, it's commensurate to the work we do. Nigerian government really has to improve. The future of Nigerian doctors, sadly enough, is abroad, and countries are asking for them. Like the PLAB exam is an incredibly easy exam to just write and pass. So people are writing it and moving. You know, so if Nigeria cannot improve these parts, payments, facilities, you know, then it's a poor tale. I would end on this note to say that this is a popular theme that I've always passed across, to say that travel is not necessary of money, but of courage. And the reason is because it takes courage to decide to leave a place you've been for many years and go to a place that's brand new. You're going to be leaving your friends, you're going to be leaving your family, you're going to be leaving your job, you're going to be in search of ways to make money, search of better career. So it's often very difficult. The first step is the most difficult one, the most daunting one, saying, I want to move. It's very difficult. But I would always encourage you to take that step. When you start, you will get to the end. Don't wait, start now. It's another year, it's 2022. My aim is to get at least 2,000 people abroad. So if we can do that, we've succeeded. Okay? There are better opportunities out there. If you're if you're attaining this level right now in Nigeria, if you go abroad, you'll be times 20. That's it. So start now, make the move. If you're in town, if you catch me in any of the cities abroad, you can holler at me and I'll be there. Traveling abroad, migrating abroad is not age specific. You know, age is not a limitation. Even if you're in your 50s, you're in late 50s, you can still go abroad. I always talk about academics because academics seems to be the easiest path. But even if it's true career, like I've said earlier, you can go search for these job boards that will give you employment. Again, experience counts. I'll give you an example. Places like Australia are in need of people with huge experiences in different fields. Whether you're a cameraman, you're a technician, you're a chef, if you have 5-10 years, electrician, 5-10 years of experience, and you apply for jobs in Australia, they'll take you. Estonia, Lithuania, these are places that are in need of vocational, you can do vocational studies. If you're not a skilled worker, so to say, these are places that are in need of you. So age is not a factor. So even if you're 50 and you have 15 years of experience to back this, they're looking for you.
Malawian visual artist Tapiwa Mlinga is one of the 5 African artists whose work is being highlighted on the cover of notebooks printed by Africa No Filter, a Kenya-based art organization. Mlinga was among the over 100 artists from across Africa who participated in the competition to provide artwork and provided an interpretation for the theme celebrating Africa's creative power. Red Carpet caught up with her in Lilongwe to talk about her work. The painting that won Tapiwa Mlinga a top 5 spot is an illustration depicting the unbreakable bond between music and culture among Africans. The 26-year-old visual artist says that success came as a surprise but has inspired her to aim high.
So I did about the music, because music actually has been part of African culture for like a while. You go to any ceremonies like funerals, weddings, there's always music to it. So I created that piece. I posted about it. People loved it. It is a good sort. I think that was my expensive painting. So when I submitted to it, when I submitted to African No Filter, they actually loved it.
The Africa No Filter is an arts organization with branches in Ghana.
Now they're recognizing my work and my name is out there, and people, when they say it's T, people actually know me. That's exciting for business part. Also, it's scary in a way that now people expect more from me. I don't know how much they want for me and how much I can deliver to them. So now it's really, really scary. But I promise to do my best. Yeah, I hope it works out.
Mlinga's success comes 2 years after she went into arts, a new career she started after working as a social worker. She has been collaborating with several professional local artists, including the country's renowned pencil artist, Henry Buddha.
Yeah, she's a very good artist, Like the way she come up with the concepts, like the concepts are very nice, and how she mixes the paint, it's very nice as well. She knows how to mix the paint, how to put it out there.
Mlinga markets her work through several social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, and WhatsApp. But her success is not short of challenges, including the rise in prices of painting materials on the market.
Get me a pencil. And another challenge that I have is most people actually here in Malawi, they take art as a white people hobby. So if you post about it, just like, okay, it's nice. But for them to appreciate it and actually buy or actually keep it, it's really a struggle. I think right now they are coming into place, but then still we have a larger number of people that they shy away from getting involved in art.
But challenges aside, Mlinga is pushing hard to explore international markets.
As an artist, I need to be in the platforms whereas I can go outside the country. Yeah, there's a Mexico art show, like it's a wide art show. There is a Texas art show. I need to be in those spaces. That will be like, that's my goal.
I am Shade Uwe, and this is a news update. The House of Representatives Committee on Public Petitions has issued a warrant of arrest on the Central Bank Governor, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, and the Accountant General of the Federation. Also for Mrs. Oluwatoyin Madeyin and 17 others for refusing to appear before it to answer questions on their operations. This followed the adoption of a motion by Fred Agbedi, PDP, Bayelsa at the committee's hearing on Tuesday. Earlier, the petitioner, Mr. Fidelis Uzowanem, said that the petition was anchored on the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative report of 2021. He said that the CEOs should be brought to appear before the committee by the Inspector General of Police through a warrant of arrest after due diligence by the Speaker, Rep. Tajuddin Abbas. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, sternly cautioned ministries, departments, and agencies not to adopt a lackadaisical approach when justifying their budgets during a stakeholders' retreat organized by the Committee on Appropriations. Represented by the Deputy Senate President, Senator Jibrin Barau, Akpabio emphasized the potential consequences of non-compliance by individuals or agencies in the eventual passage of the 2024 Appropriation Bill.
However, let me state clearly that the National Assembly will not tolerate attitude from government functionaries in all MDAs in relation to issues surrounding their defenses of submissions and our resolve to maintain the January to December budget cycle. I mean attitudes that are not in consonance with our zeal to the passage of budget so that we maintain that cycle, our budget cycle of January to December of every year.
Meanwhile, the Minister for Finance, Wale Edin, stressed Nigeria's depleted fiscal space and the imperative need to focus on concessional funding and climate financing.
Just yesterday evening, the IMF Managing Director, her opening statement was that with all the shocks that the world has suffered, Ukraine, climate incidents, COVID, which effects are still being felt, that the fiscal space is exhausted. And we agree with that. I agree with that. Nigeria's fiscal space is exhausted. And the solution, as you probably heard earlier today, is that we have to focus on the concessional funding, the cheaper funding, the even free funding, and climate financing is the way.
Highlighting the pivotal role of the budget in addressing the nation's economic challenges, Senator Solomon Olamilekan, chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation, underscored the event's significance.
The essence of this deliberation today is more than just discussion on figures and allocation. It is about ensuring that every naira allocated is purposefully directed towards the project and program that will improve the lives and aspirations of every Nigerian, guarantee our economic stability and growth, and overall build a better future for generations to come.
Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has presented a total budget proposal of 434,221,765,938 naira 79 kaba for the 2024 fiscal year to the Oyo State House of Assembly. According to the governor, the budget is titled Budget of Economic Recovery. Of the total budget proposal, the governor earmarked the total sum of 222.3 billion naira for capital expenditure, while a total sum of 211.8 billion naira is for recurrent expenditure. Education received top priority with the budget allocation with 90.6 billion naira, a 20% of the total budget, while 74.3 billion naira
as follows. Education, 90,654,949,252 naira and 68 kobo, which is 20.88% of the total budget. That's what we have for education. Infrastructure, 74,316,325,706 naira and 80 kobo. This breakdown shows that our administration is once again prioritizing our education sector.
Strategic plan tagged Sustainable Action for Economic Recovery, the SAFA. The vision is to put the state on the pedestal of social economic growth and development and eradicate poverty. The year 2024 budget proposal of 434,221,765,938 naira 79 kobo. It tagged Oyo State's budget for economic recovery.
The National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party reviewed the state of the party and directed that all pending intra-party litigations across the country should be withdrawn forthwith. The NWC urged all party leaders, critical stakeholders, and members across the country to remain united and continue to promote the values for which the PDP is known as a truly democratic party. The Benue State Governor, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, has sworn in 21 caretaker committee chairmen with a call on them to be accountable and transparent while carrying out their responsibilities. Speaking at a ceremony in Makurdi, North Central Nigeria, the governor said with the appointment, his administration has demonstrated determination to